So the clay that you guys are using comes from the ground. I won't tell you too much about it. It's actually going to turn white, but it doesn't turn white right away. It has to get fired in the kiln, which is like a really hot oven. We'll get to that part later. On Tuesday and Wednesday, you guys are going to be making a small little anything. Small little sculpture of anything you want. So you're going to get a little piece of clay. Don't cry. It's just a mini project. And whenever you get a brand new piece of clay, you have to check for air bubbles. And I'll kind of check with you tomorrow for the first time. And if we need to, as I'm cutting it, I'll show you how to pop any air bubbles if you see them. But you're only going to have this little tiny bit of clay. Oh. So when you make something, I tend to break it apart and pull it apart. So you pull pieces off. You want to roll it. You can roll it many ways. You might roll it against the canvas. You might roll it in your hands. You might roll it in your fingers. So that's one way that you might start, by pulling your clay apart and rolling lots of three-dimensional spheres. They're not circles, they're not shapes, because they're 3D spheres. So you can make a whole bunch of those. Ooh, this is fun. And you might just really like it and just make a whole bunch of little jelly beans. Okay. Another thing that I like to make is called a coil. When you were little, you probably called it a wormy. And you pull off some clay. And I tend to, this is just a little trick that helps me. Before I roll it, because I tend to have problems rolling it, I tend to squish it and squeeze it. Ooh, you get a little stress relief. Oh, it feels good. And you squeeze it into like a sausage shape first. And then I use my fingers and I roll. Raise your hand and tell me what you think I have underneath my clay. What do I got? What do you think, Logan?
Wax paper?
Oh, it looks like wax paper. Good guess. It's actually not. Let's see another hand for another guess. Dan, what's your guess?
Like a canvas?
Yes, very good. This is a canvas mat. Canvas is a type of really hard fabric. Sometimes you have them outside. And I find clay sticks to the table, so I have canvas mats. Where do you think you would find all this stuff tomorrow when it's your turn? Kaylee, where are you going to look tomorrow?
The materials table?
Yep. And can you guys look over there for a second and just go OMG? Because Nicole... Yeah, OMG.
OMG, that is right. Shout out to America.
This beautiful table was created by Nicole. She stayed after school on Thursday to help me make it that nice. So, yeah, you're Nicole. Thank you, Nicole. Here's the deal. When you guys are doing clay, I'm going to give you a lot of freedom, but I want the materials table to stay like that. Help each other out. Don't just throw things around. Keep it nice, keep it neat, keep it organized, please. You guys can do that. I will give you plenty of time. So that's the second thing that I did. I did coils. Now, as you're starting to make all these great little things with your clay, you're discovering things, you might decide you want to create a sculpture. And when you attach clay together, when it's wet, it will stick. But then as it dries, it no longer sticks. Not good. So we have to do a lot of things to get our clay to stick together. So when you're ready to stick your clay together, there is something over on the materials table that you have to share. There's not enough for everybody to get their own. There are containers filled with clay and water. It should be a kind of a pudding-like consistency. And this is clay glue. You can't just use clay glue. There's actually 3 attaching steps. So if you want to write this down, you can. First thing I'm going to do is scratch my clay. This is also called, does anybody know what this is called?
Scratching?
Don't call out. Raise your hands. Some of you are going to know once you hear it. What do you think, Ava?
Scoring?
Very good. It's called scoring your clay. So if I'm going to attach 2 pieces of clay together, I score them. Do not ever poke holes in your clay. I'm going to use a bad piece to show you. Because science works, kiddos. When you poke holes in your clay, air molecules get trapped in those holes. I just trapped air molecules. Your clay is going to have to get really, really hot in the big oven called the kiln. Air, when it gets hot, you felt this in summer. Maybe you didn't know what was happening, but air molecules get bigger when they're hotter. These tiny air molecules trapped inside your clay will get so big they want to get out. And believe it or not, the only way they can get out is by shattering your clay to pieces, which sounds like really cool. But when you spend weeks sculpting something and it explodes and breaks other people's clay, it's not cool at all. Not cool at all.
Wait, so score. Oh.
Okay, so anyway, basically just don't poke holes in your clay. Scoring, thank you, Tyler. You scratch the surface.
Okay.
Then we have to put lots and lots and lots of slip on. Lots of clay glue. Notice I'm using one finger. It's fabulous. They use this at spas, believe it or not. And I have score and slip. Score and slip. It's hard to see, but can you kind of see a little bit? Score and slip. Then you're going to attach it together. Squeeze it until the slip oozes out. And children, that's not all. You also have to weld it together. This is like a horror movie with a bloody wound, and I am the surgeon, and I have to stitch his little head on. So I'm stitching with a tool. Some of you could do this with your fingers. My fingers are way too big, so there are tools on the materials table for you to use. I'm not going to tell you anything else about the tools because I want you to discover and learn for yourself on Tuesday and Wednesday. Bad news. These things will dry. They will become like mud. They will become super fragile. And then they have to take a ride on a cart all the way up through the elevator, all the way upstairs to the kiln room where I pick them up and put them into this big kiln. They're like this. And they need to be able to survive that. I know I'm being a little silly, but if you just go like this, when he's in the cart going to the kiln and he dries, he's like, and his ear falls off. I know because it just happened to my high schoolers. They're like, oh, I got this little slip. Yeah, it's good, whatever. And their clay started to fall apart when I was bringing it to the kiln. I felt terrible, but you really got to score, slip, make sure it's on there good. But next 2 days, that's for practicing. It's good to practice. If you mess up, we're going to help each other out with that. So not a big deal, but really make sure you're gluing things on good. There are also clay knives. They can't really hurt you. But treat them with respect. You're showing me you can do this, so I'm giving you grown-up materials. You can cut your clay. Just remember to, what's step 1? Score. Yeah, score, scratch. Step 2. Good. Step 3. Yeah. I think somebody, Kaylee, you actually heard me. I called it a bunch of things, but I like to call it welding together. Did I say that, Kaylee, or did you just know that? Oh, okay. You could say stitch it up, but I call it welding. Okay? I think you guys got this. I don't know, I'm making a little creature with his arms out.
It's like a tea kettle.
It's Yoshi.
Spout and